Let me ask you this. How many times have you avoided your language studies because you weren't motivated enough? Exactly. This is the video for you because we're diving deep into motivation. What is it? Why it's important, pros and cons, how to find motivation, and 3 simple strategies that you can apply right now within 5 to 10 minutes and see immediate results. Now let's get started. What's up, everybody? Now, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Bront'e. I am a language coach, which means that I help language learners go from feeling frustrated about their progress, confused about what decisions to make in their language studies, overwhelmed with the amount of resources to use, strategies to apply, decisions to make in their language studies, feeling all of those things, to feeling confident and fluent and using the languages that you're learning in your day-to-day life. Because that's the goal. Now, in this video, as promised, we are diving into motivation. So if you're someone who struggles to find motivation and stay motivated, you are not alone, because it is probably one of the biggest challenges that we face as language learners. Because just think about it. How many times have you avoided your language studies when you are not motivated? You procrastinated until the motivation came back. But also, how many times did you study for hours and hours because you were extremely motivated and inspired and you couldn't let it go? No, just me? Now, while this video isn't a list of every possible way to find motivation and stay motivated, this is going to be the thing that helps you take action right now, because my philosophy, the way that I work, is I work hard to make sure that I give you things you can do right now, actionable, rather than just thinking about it and talking about it. We're going to be doing things to make progress and see that progress. So what I'm sharing with you are the fastest ways to boost your motivation and start making progress in your language studies right now. But before we dive into it, we have to get on the same page. Now, you might be saying, Bront'e, why do we even need to talk about motivation, what it is? I know what motivation is. It's because what I see in my mind and hear when I hear the word motivation might be completely different than what you picture in your mind when you hear motivation. We need to get on the same page. So let's talk about it. Motivation, when I hear it, what I picture is like an empty container. Essentially, you get to decide the size of the container, although sometimes life will do that for you. And you get to replenish that energy inside of the container and then use it strategically throughout your life. In this case, in your language studies. It's the energy that specifically helps us to take action and complete a task. It's what makes things more enticing, more interesting, or less interesting and completely boring. Basically, motivation is what helps us to take action, and it guides our action towards reaching our goal. It is very closely tied to guiding principles. And if you don't know what a guiding principle is, then make sure to watch my other video, because you need to know motivation and guiding principles in order to make this work. So for example, if we want to get better at speaking in daily conversations with friends and family, the motivation might be to finally be able to talk with them without having to pull out your phone and start double checking all the words in the dictionary as you speak or after you speak or before, just to prep for the sentence you're trying to say. Sometimes we're motivated by external things like recognition, praise, or that number that keeps increasing every time we return to an app and study. I'm looking at you, Lingo Dear, Memorize, Duolingo. You know what you're doing and it's working. It's working. Other times we're motivated by the satisfaction of getting something done, feeling so good about the fact that we were able to complete a task. And maybe you're like me and you like to check off those boxes and see them checked off because it makes you feel like, oh my God, I'm amazing. I did the thing. Because it's great, right? To actually say you're going to do something and then do it. It seems really simple, but it means something. This can also be things like when you recognize more words in some of your favorite songs and that sense of accomplishment that you're feeling. Or it can be finally being able to answer a question that someone is asking you without crazy hesitation and trying to write those sentences in your head before saying it out loud. But the thing is, many language learners use this as the foundation to their language studies. And this is the problem. This is what I don't want you to do. So let's dive into some pros and cons to relying on motivation, and then we'll get to how to actually do this in your own language studies. So if you've been learning languages for any length of time, you already know that motivation is limited. It is fleeting. Motivation is not a bottomless pool of energy. Once you understand how motivation works and that you can replenish this energy and you can use it strategically in your language studies, this helps you to use your time and energy wisely versus constantly feeling like you're chasing motivation, you're not making progress, and sometimes even giving up entirely because nothing seems like it's working. Because the truth is, here's what happens when you rely entirely on motivation. If you're not motivated to study, you don't study. And if you don't study, you're not making progress. And if you're not making progress, you can't use the languages that you're learning in your life. That's just it. That's it. So how are you supposed to make progress if you don't actually study? Exactly. But there are tons of reasons why motivation is good and helpful for us in our language studies. One, it drives us to take action and it helps us to make progress towards our goals. It encourages us to complete tasks that actually move us towards the thing we're trying to achieve. And again, that's why guiding principles are so closely tied to motivation. It helps us to avoid actions that stall or prevent our progress. And it increases our enthusiasm and our excitement for doing the things that we plan to do anyway. But on the other hand, when we rely entirely on motivation, here's what happens. Because motivation is a limited resource, it's impossible to always stay motivated. So again, if you're not motivated to study and you rely entirely on it, you're not going to study. Another con to relying entirely on motivation is that motivation is often tied to things like our mood. So if we're upset, if we're stressed, motivation goes down, we don't study. Or it's connected to the level of challenge that we're facing. So if the thing that we're trying to do is too challenging, or it's at a level of frustration that we can't handle, we're going to avoid it. And if it is not challenging enough, or it's below a level of frustration that we need to actually do the work, we're going to avoid it because we're bored. Relying entirely on motivation can also lead to a never-ending cycle of chasing motivation, procrastinating, burning out, binge studying, all these things that are not helping us to improve our skills and use the languages that we're learning. And then when we're not making progress, when we're not seeing results in the efforts we are putting into our language studies, that can directly impact our confidence, meaning we don't feel confident enough to actually speak to someone else, to dive into a book that we've had on our shelves for ages, to watch that movie without subtitles or with subtitles in the native language, to text a friend and actually have a conversation. We don't feel ready yet to do that. And we will never get there if we don't actually do the work. But we can't do the work because we're not motivated. Do you see the problem? Do you see it? And so what I'm going to give to you right now are 3 simple strategies that you can apply to your language studies today, like in 5 to 10 minutes max, to instantly boost your motivation and get you back on track with your language studies. Are you ready? Number 1, identify your guiding principles. I told you this is going to be important, and here's why. I talk all the time about guiding principles because it is literally the first thing that I walk all of my students and clients through when I'm helping them with their language studies, guiding principles and clarity. And I also have a video on clarity as a whole, and I'll link that down in the description as well. Knowing your why for learning languages is going to help you stay on track, stay motivated, and also be more strategic with how you use your energy and how you replenish your energy over time. Because your guiding principle impacts every decision that you make and avoid in your language studies. Now, if you want the in-depth process for guiding principle work, I break that down in the Fluency Mastery Lab, which is my language coaching membership, and in the Polyglot Project, which is my full course that walks you through the entire system for getting consistent with your language studies. Basically, it's the same thing that I use in my own language studies right now for 9+ languages. So I'm going to link down all of my resources, free and paid, that you can grab that'll help you with this guiding principle work. The second thing is find your people. You need to find people who you can connect with, who inspire you, and who help to keep you accountable, and you do the same for them. Because I think some people underestimate the power of community. Now, especially me as an introvert, because I used to disagree with this because I was like, I'm okay doing it by myself. But then I found my people, I found my friends, and it has been a game changer. So instead of going on this journey alone, you can surround yourself with those people who really help you to stay motivated. For example, seeing them study like in a Discord group or in the Facebook group and going, oh my God, they're studying right now. I can spare 15 minutes. Let me go hop into the call with them or text them and let them know, hey, I'm studying too, just so that you can keep yourself accountable. So ask yourself, who are the people who motivate me to make progress? And then stick with those people. And if you're not sure where to start, I'm going to include some free communities like my free Facebook group and the Gladly Global community. If you know, you know, so you can stop making excuses and start taking action. And then finally, celebrate your wins. Celebrating your wins and the things that you are doing well in your language studies is so important. Like I create a whole tracker and I share this with my students and my clients because you need to keep track of them. Especially as a perfectionist, because we tend to focus on all the failures and mistakes and the things that we've done wrong and why they're wrong rather than the things that are going well and the progress that we've made. And so when you find yourself struggling with motivation, you remind yourself of all the progress that you've made to show yourself that what you're doing is working. Because usually when we lack that motivation, we feel like it's not working. And this is going to signal to yourself, actually, it is. It is working. You're doing great. Keep going. And how you celebrate your wins is up to you, but make sure you keep track of them. Now, what I want you to do in the comments below is let me know which strategy you plan to use to boost your own motivation. Are you going to focus on your guiding principles? Are you going to focus on finding your people? Are you going to focus on celebrating your wins? Or are you going to focus on all three, you overachiever? And if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content just like this, and let me know what other questions you have about learning languages so that I can continue to create content just like this for you and your language learning journey. Now, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.